Hi, I'm Harold Bell, and this is the Legends of Inside Sports Detox style. This segment, we talk about the legends of inside sports, the champs and the chumps. Today, I'm going to talk about the history that was made in Washington, D.C. on January the 20th. Joe Biden became the president of the United States, and Kamala Harris became the vice president of the United States, the first black woman to ever hold that office. So today I went on Facebook just to see what they were talking about, right? And I saw one of my young men up there, Chris Johnson. Chris and I have done shows on, of course, on Sunday on Zoom, and we've done shows on my YouTube show. And Chris is a very heavy young man. And they were on there talking about his thoughts were based on yesterday's inauguration. And this is what he said. He said, Ben Carson is black, Candace Owens is black, Tim Scott is black, Barack Obama is black. He said, black faces in high places mean nothing when they are working to preserve the status quo that gave us Trump. He said the under 40 crowd, he said we learned our lesson after we put Obama in office and he governs like a moderate Republican, in his own words, for 8 years. He said Kamala being vice president is nothing but a diversity hire. She didn't get the job because the people wanted her. She didn't get the job based on her performance in the primary, where she lost her home state and was blown out in the water. It wasn't for her accomplishments as DA in California, working against the Cabinist community and locking up people for nonviolent offenses. It was because she checked the right boxes for diversity and she is willing to play ball, serve her donors over everything, just like Biden. Identity politics won't save the economy or the planet. Now, right under Chris, there was this young lady, AJ Monet. Her response was, we're not rooting for everybody black. We're rooting for everybody with a conscience for poor people across the globe. The environment, affordable housing, abolition, and free education. We're rooting for values grounded in people over profit. Now, this is what Deuce Almighty, this was his response. He said, I was with her until she said poor people across the globe. This is the United States, not the United Nations. So much of these economic bills has so much money leaving the country. Our money, black people's money he's talking about. It's poor people right here who have to pay taxes right here. And he's right. I've always said, people talking about leaving the country and going over to Africa and these, countries where they're, predominantly black and they're poor and they're catching hell. And I say, yeah, I will go with you when we take care of business right here in America. We got to take care of home first. When I was seeing Oprah and the Williams sisters going over and building schools over there in Africa and stuff, hey, you need to do that right here in the United States. Then once we get straight, then go over there. So I understand exactly what Deuce Almighty is saying. We got to take care of home first. And my response to Chris was this. I say, Chris, I think you're on to something. I think the Joe Biden team missed the boat when they didn't bring Bernie Sanders to the table, and then they nominated a racist like Tom Vilsack to head the Department of Agriculture. I cannot believe that Barack, Clyburn, Harris, Rice, Booker, and the Congressional Black Caucus are not aware of how black farmers and former employees of the Department of Agriculture feel about Vilsack. This is not a good sign for Biden and Harris. It looks like business as usual. And I watched the inauguration yesterday. And I voted for Biden and Harris because I didn't have any other choice. I didn't think Bernie had a choice. I mean, had a chance to win. So I had to vote for Biden and Harris because I didn't want to see Trump in there again. Watching the inauguration yesterday, I was here in the computer room and I had my door open because I don't have a TV back here. I heard my wife watching. She was refereeing. She'd tell me who people were coming on, and I would go out there and watch. Now, yes, I was happy to see Joe Biden sworn in as president. I was happy to see Kamala Harris sworn in as the first woman, female, black woman vice president of the United States. But what I really enjoyed most, I'm a big country western fan, and they brought my man Garth Brooks on to sing Amazing Grace. Garth Brooks is not only a fantastic vocalist when it comes to country western, but he's a humanitarian. Garth Brooks was standing up, man, and calling out, man, all these racist cops that were killing unarmed black men. He stood up, even with his music and at his concerts. So I'm a big Garth Brooks fan. But who really stole the show for me was this young 22-year-old poet by the name of Amanda Gordon. I want you to hear Amanda Gorman. I want you to hear her right now. We're going to go to that video.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it. would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
That's right. Man, I'll tell you that was powerful. That's our future there. That's the kind of young people I've been standing up for 50 plus years. You know, it wasn't about a dollar. It's hundreds of Amanda Gormans out there. 22 years old. She went to Harvard. How many of us are going to get that opportunity, our young people? How we know that wasn't an Amanda Gordon potential, that 1-year-old baby that was shot and killed just before the Christmas holidays? See, we are not going to make any progress until we as Black people learn to be inclusive instead of exclusive. What I enjoyed most about, the inauguration was that young woman right there standing up. A young 22-year-old that came from a broken home. Her mom raised her. Just think, like I said, there are hundreds of Amanda Gordons out there. Right here in the USA, right in Southeast Washington, D.C. They will never get an opportunity to grow up in America on an even playing field because of his or her skin color. So, Amanda, thank you so much. I mean, you made my day. And as I go out of here, I just want to remember I lost 3 friends this week. I lost Joe Bell, a dear friend, no kin, in Florida to the COVID. I lost Frank Jones. I lost Joe on Saturday, and Frank Jones here in Washington, D.C., a dear friend for a long time, one of my heroes, man. And then just before I went on the air to do this show, I got a call that I lost one of my mentors in Winston-Salem, Vic Johnson. When I went to Winston-Salem as a freshman, Vic was a senior on the football team, and he was a veteran. He had been in the service and everything. And he took me under his wing because I was a wild child. I was a wild child. And that freshman year was when those young men over at North Carolina A&T decided to go down to the Woolworth and sit at that lunch counter, and where they said enough was enough. And they refused to serve them. They stayed there until it was closed. Well, that movement came up to Winston-Salem my freshman year. And the first thing Big House Gaines, the legendary coach, did, he called all the athletes into the gym. And he said, I don't want to catch any of you knuckleheads down in town for the boycott. I don't want to catch any of you down there. I'm sending you back to the ghetto. And you know, I felt that he was talking to the guys from DC and New York. That's right. But you know what? Me and my boys went down there anyway. Al Mayo from Washington, D.C., Spingarn High School. That was my partner. Bonnie Hood, basketball player, shoot the lights out from Chicago. We were freshmen. And my man, Lutheran Wally from Lynchburg, another basketball player. We went down there anyway to be a part of that. And guess who we saw down there? Vic. Vic Johnson was down there. He said, boy, don't let Big House catch you guys down here. He said, I'm all right. I'm home. He ain't going to send me nowhere. But we got out of there, and we got back to campus, and everything was cool. I helped Vic and Connie move into their house, where they live now. When they moved in, after they got married and everything, Vic was like a big brother to me. He went on to become a member of the Board of Education, was community involved. In fact, Vic, just about a month ago, I had called Vic to ask him to introduce me to the sheriff in Forsyth County in Winston-Salem, Sheriff Humphreys, which was one of Vic's boys. And Vic hooked me up, and we had a fantastic show. So I just want to send my condolences out to Sheriff Humphrey and, of course, to Connie and to Vic's family and all those young men and women that Vic touched over the years. I know it was many of them. I just love that brother, and he's definitely going to be missed. I want to thank my homegirl, Peggy Witherspoon, for calling me and let me know about the passing of Vic Johnson. Well, that's going to be it for the Legends of Inside Sports and this segment of Detox. Until next time, I want you to remember that every black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. You can color me gone. I'm Harold Bell. My wife Hattie and I founded a nonprofit organization in 1968, shortly after the riots that almost destroyed my hometown, Washington, D.C. The program caters to the needs of at-risk children as it relates to social services such as education, law enforcement, drug abuse, gang-related violence, and other antisocial behavior.